Chapter 7. How to Decide to Get Rich. Earth Person. Martian, I've been doing some more thinking. About what? Well, we've been talking a while now, and I remember you saying that in order to learn to see like a Martian, I'd have to sort of go through a process. Yes, and I could use the same exact process to become rich and happy if I wanted to. That's right. Well, I know I've only just started and I may not have a good feel for the process yet, but I've been trying to figure out how someone could use it to get rich. And I just can't figure it out. None of this has anything to do with getting rich. If there's a connection, I sure as hell don't see it. The connection is that everyone who gets rich has a plan he originally conceives in his own mind. We're in the process of clearing up your mind, so you'll be able to conceive your own plan for riches, if you want to. You mean everyone who gets rich goes through all this? Not necessarily. Some people decide to get rich when they're very young and then just go out and do it. So why can't I just decide to go out and do it? You can if you want to. Well, I could say I wanted to, but I doubt that I could go out and do it. That's because the decisions you've already made about your life would interfere with this decision. Before you can get rich, you must first uncover the old decisions you once made that now stand in your way. And you must do something about them. I don't understand. You have ways of operating your life which are locked in your parent and your adapted child and which interfere with your progress. You have to turn the tapes off and put in some new ones before you can get rich. Oh, you mean people who just go out and get rich have a whole different set of tapes from me? Like, they're not worried about being polite, or they don't feel guilty about the same things I do, or maybe they don't feel guilty at all? That's right. Yeah. I'll bet they're really ruthless. They probably don't care anything at all about people. Why do you say that? And that's the way most rich people are. Money grubbing, they take from people, con men and people like that. Sounds like you were taught that somewhere. I hear it coming from your parent. You do? Yes. Would you be comfortable with a lot of money? What do you mean? Would you feel comfortable with money as opposed to feeling embarrassed or guilty? Well, I wouldn't want to keep it all for myself. If I got rich, it would be so I could give the money away. I'd want to do good with it. Were your parents rich? No, of course not. But you already know that. Did they think rich people were con men? That you can't get rich honestly? I don't remember. Oh, yes. My father used to talk about the robber barons and how people who got rich always took from the poor. Oh, and it's true. There's only a certain amount of money in the world, and in order to get more than your share, you have to take from somebody. Suppose they just gave it to you. Why would they do that unless they were tricked? People don't give money away. You would if you were rich. What do you mean? You just said that if you were rich, you'd give your money away. Oh, is it possible you got some of your ideas about money from your father? Yes, it is. And that these ideas went into your parent? It's possible. And that you use such ideas as a justification for keeping yourself poor? What do you mean? When we finished our last conversation, you said you were going to start out more clearly next time, remember? Yes. Would you do so right now? How? You started this conversation wondering about how this process might be used to get rich, right? Yes. Rather than just wondering about that somewhat abstract idea, would you be willing to make a clear statement about what you want? Sure, I would if I could. Good. I'll wait. What do you mean? You said that you'd make such a statement if you could. I know you can't. So I'll wait. How long? Until you make it. I want to be rich. I didn't hear you. I I want to be rich. I still can't hear you. What did you say? I want to be rich. Oh, now did you hear me? Yes. You said you want to be rich. You said it so softly at first, I had a hunch you didn't want to hear yourself. But why wouldn't I want to hear myself? Why did you speak so softly? Oh, you mean so maybe I could keep it from myself? Does that seem to fit? Well, it is pretty stupid of me to want to get rich. I couldn't get rich. Why not? I'm just not capable. Oh? Yeah, I don't have what it takes. Tell me about it. To get rich, you have to be motivated. You have to be a self starter. You have to have creative ideas. You have to have a talent for such things. That's very interesting. Well, why do you say that? Do you hear your parents scolding you, saying, you're no good, you're not capable, and you don't have what it takes? And also saying, you're not motivated, you're not a self starter, you don't have creative ideas, and you don't have any talent? I didn't hear my parent. Those are just things I said about myself. But which part of you was saying them about which other part of you? Oh, you mean it was my parent talking about one of the other parts of me? Yes. Whenever you find yourself making judgments or assumptions, it's your parent. And when you're saying bad things about yourself, your parent's scolding you, just like your mother or father once did. Well, what part of me said I wanted to be rich? You already know the answer to that question. Yeah, yes, I do. It was my natural child. That's right. Why did you say it so quietly? Hmm. Now that you mention it, it seemed like I didn't want my parent to hear, but you made me keep saying it louder and louder. Why did you do that? So we could get your parent to respond. Oh, and say all those nasty things about me? Yes. But why? So you could hear the voices in your head. In order to know where you are, you must first be able to hear the voices in your head. Ah, yeah, I remember you're saying that when we first started talking. I guess I didn't quite know what you were talking about, but you're learning well. So far, we've learned you want to be rich, but your parent gets after you when you suggest it. Apparently, your parent doesn't like the idea of your getting rich. Why is that? Remember earlier when you said you may have gotten some of your ideas about money from your father? Yes. Could it be that your father didn't want you to make money? I guess it could, but I don't understand why. He didn't have money, did he? No, he didn't. He didn't know how to get it, did he? He knew only one way, taking it from the poor. Would it have been a threat to him if you got rich? A threat? Not that I know of. He wanted me to succeed. Could it have been that part of him wanted you to succeed, and part of him would have been threatened if you got rich? I suppose so. What part of him wanted you to succeed? His natural child. What part was threatened? Well, probably his adopted child. But why would that be? You tell me. You knew your father better than I did. Well, he was the man in the family, the breadwinner. He spent his whole life struggling. Making money was hard work for him. It would have blown his mind to see it come easy to me. Let's examine that a little. Who supported his role as the man in the family? My mother. Oh? Yeah, I guess she didn't want me to get rich either. She was always telling me not to upset my father, not to disturb him. Is the thought of getting rich scary to you? Yes, it really is. Would you feel guilty if you became rich? Very much so. What's that about? Well, I don't know why I'd be scared, but I'd feel guilty because I'd be doing well at the one thing my dad couldn't do at all. So why feel guilty? Oh, that's obvious. It's like hitting a man when he's down. But what's the relationship between that and your feeling guilty? What do you mean? Don't you understand? I'd be doing something I shouldn't do. I'd feel guilty. What shouldn't you be doing? Getting rich. Did you hear your parent? I certainly did. That's crazy. I just heard myself say I shouldn't get rich. Yes. Your parent sure doesn't like the idea, does it? It sure doesn't. That's really amazing. Do you know what it's about? I guess it has to do with the fact that if you kick a man when he's down, you can really hurt him. I know it would really crush my father for me to get rich. Do you hear that? It's your fantasy about how you can control people's feelings. You can't crush your father. Son of a gun. It's the same problem I had with my mother-in-law and that plan she gave me. I believe I can hurt people with my actions. I believe I control what they feel. But in a way, I do control what they feel. I trigger their feelings, even if I don't absolutely control them. They trigger their feelings. Your action provides stimulus, which they don't have to respond to. The choice of responding or not is theirs. But they may not know they have that choice. That's true. Earth people usually aren't taught they have a choice. Even if I told them, they wouldn't understand. It's like I said when we first met. Most people choose not to hear many things that would be of value to them. There's not much I can do about that, is there? No, there's nothing you can do about it. It's their problem, not yours. I guess I'm already clearer than I thought. You're well on your way, but let's get back to the business about your father. Which part of him did you say would feel hurt if you were to become wealthy? His adopted child. And that's what you'd feel guilty about? The idea that your father might play an old tape about how bad he felt? It really sounds dumb when you put it that way, but it is what you'd feel guilty about? Yes, it is. Are you going to continue to feel guilty about it? No, I'm not. Good. Why do you think your dad would play an old tape about feeling hurt? I don't know. He could have made money if he wanted to. How did he stop himself? Well, mainly he treated everybody as if they were honest, and as a consequence, he got taken a lot. Anything else? Really, when you get right down to it, he was just plain scared. Oh? Yeah, I don't know why. He could have been rich if he hadn't been scared. Do you think he knew that? Not to speak of, but maybe deep down inside he did. And if he had known it, what would your getting rich have shown him? That it was easy, that he could do it too. Would he have liked that? It would have blown his cover. It would have shown him there was no need to be scared. But would he have liked that? His natural child would have loved it. He would have been so relieved. And his adapted child? His adapted child was the part of him that was always scared. My getting rich would have shown my father that he had no need for his adapted child. And his adapted child would have hated me. That's so strange, isn't it? No, it's very common. Each part of a person develops its own personality and fights tooth and nail for its own survival. Even if that part is detrimental to the person? Especially if that part is detrimental to the person. Because then its survival is more likely to be at stake. Gee, that's really amazing. Yes, I know. Now consider this. Could this be why you've been afraid to get rich? Because my dad's adapted child would have hated me? Yes. That's really heavy, but I'll bet you have something there. That hatred would have been really intense. It would have been enough to scare anybody. So, is this beginning to make sense to you? Somewhat, but not entirely. Well, before I can explain further, there's one more thing you must know. You need to know that you once made a decision to avoid certain feelings like fear and guilt. How do you know that? I hear it in your words. You say things like, I wouldn't do that because I'd feel guilty. And I won't do this because it's too scary. You imply the reason you don't do things is you want to avoid the feelings. You're not alone though. It's very common. And it makes sense. Who would want to feel such feelings? You may think it makes sense, but look at the problem it's caused you. What problem? Well, you decided that if you ever became rich, you'd undoubtedly feel guilty and scared. Guilty because you believed you could control what other people felt, and therefore you'd hurt your father. Scared because you believed part of him would then hate you. Since you decided to avoid feeling scared and guilty, you've had no alternative but to decide not to get rich. Wow, that's amazing. I heard every word you said, and it seemed to be exactly what I've done. See what you mean about decisions being so important. I really did decide all of that. You're catching on. I sure am. But why was my father so afraid of making money? Why have you been so afraid? What do you mean? Think. Well, oh my God. You mean to say he was afraid because he thought his father would hate him? He had the same problem with my grandfather that I had with him? Interesting, isn't it? It's absolutely unbelievable to think that something like this could actually be passed down from generation to generation. You can be the first to break the chain. You really think I can? You can if you want to. How do I go about it? By making some new decisions. I guess the decisions I really need to make involve feelings like guilt and fear. Avoiding them doesn't help me, but what do I do instead? Just feel them? That doesn't sound so smart. You got into the habit of avoiding them because you thought you had no alternative to feeling them in certain situations. But you do have an alternative. Rather than working on your avoidance, you can work on your alternatives. What do you mean? You're the one who sets up these feelings. You can examine how you do this and decide not to do it anymore. Then you'll have nothing to avoid. But how can I do that? You don't need to ask me how. You already know. What do you mean? You stopped feeling guilty about keeping the plant your mother-in-law gave you. How did you do that? I decided I didn't have to keep the plant. I'm not in charge of what my mother-in-law feels. Okay. What part of you says you have to do things? My parent? So what part of you did you change? Oh, my parent. I must have switched a tape. I changed my parent from I have to keep the plant to I don't have to keep the plant. How? Well, I used what you told me about people's separate parts. I decided since I don't control what my mother-in-law feels, there's no need for me to keep the plant. I'll just get rid of it, and if she feels hurt, that's her problem. She doesn't have to feel hurt. What part of you wanted to get rid of the plant? My natural child. And how did your natural child deal with your parent? It enlisted the aid of my adult. Very good. And my adult thought it over and told my parent it was crazy. All of a sudden, I didn't have to keep the plant anymore. I felt like a restraint had been lifted. Like you had permission to do something you'd always wanted to do. Yes. And what about the guilt in your adopted child? It was no longer relevant. Okay. That's the process. You've already gone through it once. You didn't even have to ask me how. You're right. I didn't, did I? Right. And that's why I said you eventually won't need me. You mean I can use this process for all my problems and I can do it without your help? Yes. Wow. Let's see now. The way it works is my natural child decides what I want and gets my adult to help. Then they both go to work on my parent, which then turns off my adapted child, right? You've got it. The key is to decide what you want and to see how your parent and adapted child prevent you from getting it. Oh yeah, I use my natural child to decide what I want, and I use my adult to see what my parent and adapted child are doing to prevent my getting it. Right. Only then can you get your parent to give you permission to go ahead. Okay, I know I've got it now. Let's call it a day. I've got about all I can handle at one sitting. All right? Fine with me. Comments. For the first time in this book, we're dealing directly with the issue of money. People do stop themselves from getting rich for reasons related directly to money, but they're rarely the most important reasons. Dealing with them prematurely could be misleading. A person usually needs to learn about seeing and hearing before he can know what to do about issues related to money. The difficulties Earth Person faces in this chapter are common to many people. The average person doesn't know how to make large sums of money, and he typically fantasizes in unrealistic ways about how others do it. He often uses his negative fantasies to justify his own inaction. Rich people rob from the poor, and he wouldn't want to rob them poor. Rich people are all con men, and he wouldn't want to cheat people. If you check yourself out, you'll find you harbor many such ideas. You may realize that they're not all grounded in fact. That is, your adult may realize it, but your child may cling to them nevertheless. And if you're excruciatingly honest with yourself, which you need to be in these matters, you might see yourself clinging to one or more of the following notions. A. People who get rich are lucky. B. People who get rich are talented. C. People who get rich are unusually talented and lucky. D. People who get rich have the right connections. E. People who get rich sacrifice too much. F. People who get rich don't enjoy their money. G. People who get rich are cold and unfeeling. H. People who get rich are self-centered and miserly. Even more important are the parent notions that people have about themselves. I'm just not capable. I don't have what it takes. I can't make it. And the adapted child feelings these notions evoke: ineptness, guilt, and depression. When you have a moment, sit down and list all the adjectives you can think of to describe yourself and all the feelings you feel in any given day, as nearly as you can pinpoint them. Many of them may sound foolish, to your parent or feel embarrassing to your adopted child, but they exist in all of us. You need to know what they are if you're ever going to get a handle on how you live your life. If you start resisting, make a note of how you go about it so you can get a feel for how you prevent yourself from knowing. Take special note of these adjectives and feelings that limit you or stand in your way, which you want to eliminate from your life. By far, our greatest long-term difficulties come from decisions we made as youngsters in order to deal with the parent and adopted child of our own mother and father. Deciding not to do things that might threaten our parents is the most common. Since almost all mothers and fathers operating from a lot of distorted information in their parent and irrational feelings in their adopted child, it's inevitable that at one time or another, you responded to their mixed messages and irrational fears by making dysfunctional decisions of your own. The decisions weren't dysfunctional then, but they are now, and you've grown up and moved away. To get a more accurate feel for how your parents influenced you about money, close your eyes and picture a scene where you return home and announce to your mother and father that you just figured out how to get rich and you've made $1 million, or whatever else is appropriate for you. Picture your parents not as you know them now, but as they were when you were 7 or 8 years old. Watch their faces and listen to their responses. Are they interested, happy, indifferent, angry, scared? Is one happy but the other scared? Do they start telling you what to do with the money? Do they beg you to give them some? Do they punish you for being greedy or materialistic? Do they belittle your efforts? Are they overly concerned with how it might affect them? Or do they smile and encourage you to make even more? Any scene that involves non-acceptance of any sort is one which a little person would certainly try to avoid. Any scene that involves encouragement is one he'd try to repeat. If you received anything other than natural child acceptance or encouragement, you know what influenced you and still influences you to decide against making money. Before leaving this chapter, it might be worthwhile to take a look at Martian's method of questioning. All his questions have a purpose: to help Earth Person know what he feels, to help him decide what he wants, to get him to say what he wants, to help him see how his parent and adopted child stop him from getting what he wants, and to help him explore and change the early decisions that motivate his current actions. The majority of these questions, as you can see from the wording, what you feel, what do you want, are directed to Earth Person's natural child.